What if the moment you cross the finish line alone is the moment you've actually lost the race? We live in a world obsessed with trophies. From a young age, we're taught that being first is everything, that your name at the top of the list is the only proof of a life well lived. But consider this for a moment. If you climb to the peak of a mountain and look back to find you're the only one there, was the climb really worth it? Society often celebrates the lone genius, the self-made millionaire. We put them on pedestals, believing their path is the one to follow. But this narrow focus on personal glory creates a world where we see others not as companions, but as obstacles to be overtaken. Is a victory meaningful if it's built on the sidelines of those who couldn't keep up? Today, let's journey through a story that might just recalibrate your internal compass. It's a simple tale, but its echo might linger long after the words fade. In a quiet valley nestled between rolling hills lived a young man named Leo. For Leo, life wasn't a journey, it was a competition. Every footstep was a chance to outpace someone. Every day, a new race to be won. His room wasn't decorated with posters of heroes, but with his own ribbons and medals, his identity forged in the fire of victory. One summer, the valley held its annual festival, and the main event was a foot race. Leo stood at the starting line with two other runners, their faces etched with focus. The crowd, a sea of familiar faces, buzzed with anticipation. Among them stood an old woman, her face weathered like ancient oak, watching not with excitement, but with quiet contemplation. The starting horn blared, legs pumped, hearts hammered, driven by a relentless inner fire. Leo's will was a force of nature. He pulled ahead, his lungs burning with glorious effort, and broke the tape first. The crowd erupted, a wave of sound washing over him. He beamed, soaking in the adulation. But when his eyes found the old woman in the crowd, she wasn't clapping. She simply nodded, a faint, unreadable smile on her lips. The organizers, seeing his fire, proposed another heat. Two new challengers stepped forward, swift and strong, like young deer. The race began again, a blur of motion. And once more, Leo's sheer willpower propelled him to victory. The crowd's cheers were deafening, a symphony to his ego. He felt 10 feet tall. He looked again for the old woman, still silent, still watching. A flicker of annoyance crossed his mind. "One more!" Leo shouted, his voice raw with adrenaline. "Let's prove who the best really is!" The crowd roared its approval. But then the old woman stepped forward, her presence commanding a sudden silence. She gently guided two new figures to the starting line. One was a frail, elderly man, his back bent by time. The other was a young girl, no older than 12, who held a white cane, her eyes seeing nothing. Leo's triumphant smile vanished. He stared, bewildered. "What is this?" he stammered, looking at the old woman. "This isn't a race. This is a joke." "This too," she said, her voice calm as a still pond. "This too is a race." The horn sounded. Instinct took over. Leo exploded off the line, his body obeying the only command it knew: win. He didn't look back. He crossed the finish line in a blur and spun around, arms raised in glorious victory. But the sound of cheering never came. The crowd stood in absolute, uncomfortable silence. They weren't looking at him with joy, but with something that looked like pity. Confused and deflated, Leo walked back to the old woman. "Why?" he asked, his voice small. "I won again. Why aren't they happy?" The old woman placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Run again," she said softly. "But this time, make sure you all finish." Leo stood still for a long moment, the silence heavier than any cheer. He looked at the old man, his breath shallow. He looked at the girl, her face a mask of patient uncertainty. Then, slowly, he walked back. He stood between them. He took the old man's wrinkled hand in one of his, and the girl's soft, small hand in the other.